What is up, guys? My name is Ronnie and I does makeup, and in today's video I am going to be discussing all the differences between the Adept Cosmetic Plain Jane palettes, both the original, the anniversary edition, and the remastered. I realized I said both when that means two, and talking way too much, so if that is something that you're interested in, keep on watching. So I know that I have my glasses on. I'm gonna be talking a lot and I'm gonna be reading a lot, and it's gonna be hurting my eyes, so let's go. So I feel like I have some terminology to kind of discuss because I say things weird and wrong, and you know, I don't expect everyone to get it. So whenever I say something is like a standard formula, it means that it just feels like a regular shimmer, like it picks up like a normal shimmer. There isn't anything like, it's not like a topper or anything where it looks super sparse, or it isn't like a chunky formula where it's like super malleable and yeah, anyway, it's just a regular formula. But whenever I do say something is chunky, I mean that it's kind of like a putty, and I probably should just call it a putty, but I like them big and I like them chunky, and it just means that like product is able to get on your brush very easily, but then whenever you distribute it, you have to like kind of move it around. It's just a very malleable formula, and that's just something that I like to discern. I know that there have been some like, I guess, concerns about like the chunky formula. People just don't like them. You know, I see more complaints online about chunky formulas versus just regular shimmer formulas. So that's one of the reasons why I like to differentiate what everything is. My tripod fell a bit. Is this better? Is this better? Is this worse? I don't really know. Oh, look at that Ulta box of shame. Okay, we have pivoted over here and I'm gonna put some swatches up, and let's get right into these shadows. First up, we have ACI 1. So in both the Plain Jane Original and the Plain Jane Anniversary palette, it is a reddish brown shade that has a soft but standard shimmer formula. And then for ACI 1 in the Plain Jane Remastered, it is a red to green shifting shade that has a standard shimmer formula. Next up, we have ACI 2, and again, in both the Plain Jane Original and the Plain Jane Remastered palette, it is a cool toned brown, but it does have a chunky formula, but it's a very, very sparkly shimmer. And then ACI 2 in the Plain Jane Remastered palette is a rusty red standard shimmer. Next up, we have ACI 3, and once again, in both the original and the anniversary palette, it is a pinky gold sparkly shimmer that has a kind of like a softer formula. Not necessarily chunky, it's just soft. And then ACI 3 in the Plain Jane Remastered palette is a brown-based olive with a standard shimmer formula. Next up, we have ACI 4, and in both the Plain Jane Original and the Plain Jane Anniversary palettes, it is a warm-toned purple with a slight gold shift and a kinda chunky formula. And then ACI 4 in the Plain Jane Remastered palette is still a warm-toned purple with like slight gold reflex, but I will say that this formula is a lot softer, and the gold reflex are way more apparent. It just looks way more gold and sparkly. Next up, we have ACI 5. So in the Plain Jane Original and the Plain Jane Anniversary palette, it is a pink to like an orangey and green duochrome, multichrome, yes. But these two palettes have chunky formulas, where in the Plain Jane Remastered palette, it is still that same pink to orangey, green, duochrome, multichrome, yes, but this has a more standard formula, and I would say that the green shift is way more apparent. Next up, we have ACI 6. So in the Plain Jane Original and Anniversary collections, this is a purple to blue duochrome with a chunky formula, while in the Remastered, it still is like a purple to blue shade, but it's more smooth in the pan, but the shade itself isn't as like it's more of a topper, I would say. While the other two are more of like a shimmer, this is more like an eyeshadow topper. All three versions of ACI 6 stained my skin, but I will say that the new one stained the most. Next up, we have ACI 7. So in the original and the anniversary collections editions, I don't know why I keep saying collection. Moving on, it is an orange to green duochrome with a standard formula, but in the remastered palette, it is still an orange to green duochrome, but it does have a standard shimmer formula, and the green shift is once again more apparent. And I think the camera actually picked this one up, whereas the other one, it didn't. Next up, we have ACI 8. So in the original and the anniversary palettes, it is a red-based chunky shimmer with a blue shift, but in the remastered palette, it is a red-based standard shimmer with the blue shift, but the blue shift is more apparent. Next up, we have ACI 9. So in the Plain Jane original and the Plain Jane anniversary palette, it is a lime chunky shimmer with a slight orange shift, while in the Plain Jane remastered palette, it is a lime standard shimmer with an orange shift. Next up, we have ACI 10. Now this one is fun because every version of this palette had a different version of this shade. So in the Plain Jane original palette, it is a white-based kind of chunky shimmer with a pink shift. In the Plain Jane anniversary palette, it is a blue-based shimmer with like a pink to yellow to green shift, while pink being the most apparent color shifted. I can English very, very good. And in the Plain Jane remastered, it's kind of a return to form where it is a white-based shimmer, but it is kind of like a gold and pink reflect. Very, very pretty. I don't know which one I like more between the Plain Jane anniversary and the Plain Jane remastered. They're both stunning and I love them. Next up, we have ACI 11, and in the Plain Jane original and the Plain Jane anniversary palette, it is a purple-based chunky shimmer with a little bit of a blue shift. But in the Plain Jane remastered palette, it is still a purple-based shimmer. This one has a standard formula. It has kind of a blue shift. Like, the blue shift is more reflective, but the purple base is toned down, so I don't know if I want to call it like purple with a blue shift, or if it's just a blue shimmer with a purple base. It's very interesting. The base is also a little bit more patchy. I personally prefer, this is the only one that I prefer the original versions of this shade, but moving on. Next up, we have ACI 12, and this one is funky because in this one, just the Plain Jane original palette has a hot pink sparkly shimmer with a chunky formula, but in the but in the anniversary and the remastered palette, it is a purple to green standard formula duochrome, and I really like it a lot. So yeah, that is kind of the comparison between the three palettes. Now I kind of want to get into like some stuff about the brand, I guess. All in all, I believe that Adept Cosmetics have been working on improving the formulas of their products as well as the packaging of their products and the packaging of the products as they're shipped. Full disclosure, when I ordered the Plain Jane anniversary palette, I noticed that ACI 10 was broken, but since it was so soft and like chunky as a formula, like I said, almost like a putty, I was able to just kind of like press it down with my finger and I was completely fine. It still is fine. It hasn't broken since. But I did notice that when I purchased the Plain Jane Remastered palette, the Heather Austin palette, and the Nin Hydran palette, they were all packaged much more securely and none arrived broken at all. So I will say that that is a step up in packaging and just quality of life, I guess. The Plain Jane original palette and the Plain Jane anniversary palette both retailed for, I think, $65 plus shipping. Now the Plain Jane remastered palette does retail for $58 plus shipping, but the pan sizes have been reduced by, I think, a gram of product each. However, with the newest version of Plain Jane not having the chunky formulaed shimmers, I do feel like this product will still last you a very long time due to an increase in the quality of the shadows if the reduction in product, like mass, is an issue for you. Full disclosure, I do not have the best track record with Adept Cosmetics owner. One of my last videos that I made, I guess she didn't appreciate and I was actually blocked by the brand. And I'm not making this as kind of like, I'm not saying this, I guess, as like a, don't support them, because I mean, I've given them my money since that. I have since been unblocked. I just want to say, and I guess put it out there, that I feel like the brand is growing and is trying to be more accepting of criticisms, and that constructive or not, I guess. I don't know. I have 400 subscribers. I don't know how much damage I did with any videos that I made, and I guess I don't know, I guess I just want to put that I'm grateful to be unblocked, and I feel like I can talk about the brand that I've spent my money on again. Without feeling like I'm just going to incite drama or promote someone who doesn't support me. I don't know, I script normally my videos, at least a little bit, but this is all like diarrhea of the mouth. So I guess I just want to say that, like, I am always going to applaud changes made in the right direction. So hopefully it is nothing but bigger and better things, and we can all laugh about this in a little bit for Adept Cosmetics. But obviously people will continue to have issues with the brand. I understand that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't just because little old me was unblocked. But I will say that, I don't know, I'm not gonna be bitter about it. I mean, everyone has the right to be bitter about things. Oh God, I can't phrase anything right ever at all. I'm not mad, and I just wanted to compare these three palettes that I've bought foolishly with my own money. And I like them. This is terrible, oh God. Anyway, thank you everybody so much for watching this video. I know this was a little bit shorter of a video. I've actually pre-filmed, surprisingly, a little bit longer of a video that'll be my next week's upload, which kind of explains where I've been. If it doesn't come next week, you are legally allowed to beat me half to death with my own shoes. And thank you everybody so much for watching. I love you all, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!